gets going. All right. It looks like we are live. Just going to give a couple moments. I'm going to check on my end to make sure all of our tech is up and going. Let's see. Alrighty. Hold on a second. All right. It looks like we are up. All right. Good afternoon. We are so excited that you are with us today. My name is Pay a Sample, and welcome to my very first LinkedIn Live event where we are going to explore the concept of purpose driven leadership. Oh, 1 second. I got some feedback going. All right. So if you are here for the first time, I'm Pay a Sample. I'm a leadership coach and the CEO of Peak Leaders Collective, where our mission is to create a world where rising leaders stand tall in their authenticity, lead with unwavering purpose, and leave an enduring legacy of positive change. And so I am so excited to have a special guest with us today, Valerie Hubbard. Val, can you go ahead and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Valerie Hubbard. I am a licensed professional counselor. And I have in my career been called to serve the hearts of people. And so over that time, I have worked in schools. I have worked as a caseworker with people with mental and developmental disabilities. And I've served in ministry doing a lot of premarital and postmarital counseling. So that's who I am.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And if you looked at my post today, I shared that Valerie and I have a long standing history, 20 plus years of
Yes.
friendship, but also had a chance to serve as leaders at a previous organization. And so we're excited to talk with you about a topic that's really kind of near and dear to both of our hearts as we talk about the need of having purpose in the work that we do. And so, one of the things, if this is your first time being with me, when I talk about leadership, I am on a mission to, I would even say, like, bust up this misconception that we often have that leadership is only around someone's roles and positions, but it's really around the posture of our hearts toward others. And if we able and willing to pour into those around us, then I then believe that we are leaders. And so when we talk about this concept of purpose driven leadership, I want to encourage you, first off, regardless of the role that you're in, you have an opportunity in front of you to lead. And so, Val, why don't you start off and tell us, why do you think purpose driven leadership is so important and needed right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, post pandemic, we all are relearning how to connect.
Mhm,
We're learning how to lead. We're learning how to follow. We're learning how to receive feedback, criticism, support.
mhm,
And so I think for all industries,
yeah.
my field of counseling, but also education, all these areas, we as leaders kind of need to come back in and recalibrate our community towards what it looks like to have a collective purpose.
Mm,
And so I think that it's going to take time. We've come a long way since then, but there are still so many pieces that we need to address just to get people back really in being conscious of the fact that we all are better together and
mm,
how that looks, how we do that.
mm,
So the work that you're doing is just so important in that way. Even the group that I sat in with, just educators having the opportunity to come together and work through how does it look to operate in purpose in my role,
yeah.
and for them to have a space to work through just the vulnerability of
Hmm.
saying, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm still trying to figure it out. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah. I think back to the group that we led together. So Val and I had a chance to do an affinity group for a group of educators. And we were really talking about and just kind of having conversations about getting clear on our why, and why that was so important. And so I think something that I think is important for leaders, regardless of where you again are leading, is taking the time out to understand and know your why. Um, and so I can think back my career as an educator. I was an elementary school teacher, I was a coach, I was a principal, I'm a leadership coach now. And I think about over the season that I had, the seasons I'd say I had, where I spent a lot of time really trying to figure out what was my purpose. I was really clear on what I was doing. I could talk about I was a teacher. I was a first grade teacher. I was someone that loved literacy, and I tried to really get good at my craft there. I was an artist, and I could bring that into the classrooms. And so one of the things that I would love for us to chat a little bit about, because I know this is part of both of our story, is how do we begin to figure out that purpose or figure out that why when there feels like so many different things are shifting around us, right?
Yeah.
And so when I'll jump back for a moment. When I became a teacher, um, my goal was to go into classrooms and help kids um, learn to love knowledge and love to learn themselves, right? And so going into that role, I didn't have this vision of I'm going to be a principal, I'm going to be an administrator. I just wanted kids to love learning and love themselves. And I feel like during my time in a classroom, as well as when I moved out of the classroom, um, I started to take moments to pause and reflect on when I was most excited about what I was doing, areas that felt really natural for me, where it felt like I wasn't really working hard. It felt really effortless. And really reflecting on those moments helped me to get more clarity of my purpose or the thing that was driving me. Um, and I thought for a while that there was going to be like for a moment I thought my why was going to be the same for my entire career. And I've had to learn and realize that that's not necessarily the case, and that's a good thing. I was struggling for some times when I felt like, oh, wait a minute, it seems like it's changing. Um, but taking time to pause and reflect on those moments when I felt like um, I call it my jam. Like I was just like living in my seat and doing it effortlessly were some of the ways that I helped to get clear on my why. Do you have moments or ways that you feel like you've been able to do the same?
Oh, absolutely. I think that perspective is key. And so the way I like to look at purpose is kind of like thinking of it like a plant or a flower. It's something that's living
Mm,
and growing and
mm,
breathing. And so if you think about a flower that's closed up, you can identify maybe that it's a rose and it might be beautiful.
mm.
But as it opens, there's layer upon layer upon
Yeah.
layer. And each is dependent upon the process of the one before. You know, how each
Mm,
layer opens, it kind of progresses the next layer. And you
mm,
really don't take in the fullness of that purpose until it's completely bloomed. And so, as a Christian therapist, I know that God says that the work that He has started in us is not complete until the
mm,
day of redemption. And so, encouraging people to look at their purpose as something that is yet unfolding
mm,
instead of a place where we arrive,
mm.
because that's kind of where we get tripped up because
Yeah.
life keeps moving. And so, like, if you think about it, like maybe a board game, there are times where the players will change. And you'll, to your point, Paya, you like,
Mm,
I have like a rhythm. I'm working with this person and we have a synergy. It's
yeah.
great. It's going to be wonderful. And then all of a sudden, the players switch. So now
Mm,
we can go, wait a minute, am my purpose here? Do I still have a purpose? We can go right into that. And so my encouragement is that we stop there and we just kind of recalibrate. And we
mhm,
say, well, wait a minute, something's changed, which means I have to change, right? But it doesn't mean that I don't still have purpose here. It might just be unfolding or changing or growing.
mm,
Same with the board itself. Sometimes the environment changes and the people are the same. So now the organization we're working with has a new mission or vision.
mm,
And again, you have to realign yourself and say, well, wait a minute, can I take the next best step here? I don't know how
mhm,
the future's going to look, but can I still see myself here? And then there are other times where we change. All of a
mm.
sudden, we've been doing our
Yes.
thing, it's been flowing. We're like, I know what I'm doing. And then something on the inside, it's like you get disrupted in your spirit. You're not fulfilled in the same way. And that's when we are being called to move on in our purpose. And
Mhm,
so I think a key piece is having that anticipatory type purpose, anticipate change rather than try to avoid it or make yourself too comfortable where you are. We should be looking towards what's coming next.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about what that looks like, because I feel like you do that for me in so many ways when it's like, taking a moment and pausing and anticipating what's going to come, not seeing it as a negative thing, but an opportunity. And so, can you share a little bit about like a time when that's happened personally for you, where
Sure.
either the players, I love that puzzle, that game piece, where the players have changed or something that you've internally has changed, and kind of how did you navigate that? How did you kind of walk through that?
Well, first, let me say I don't do this perfectly, any of this. So everything that we are talking about, and I think I can speak for both of us, like
Mm,
we are, stepping into the world and offering things that we've learned and things that we
mm,
know to be true, but we, just like everybody else, are
yeah.
yet evolving. And so there are times where we're doing it well, and there are times where we're like, whoa, what just happened? And so immediately, Paya, I just think back to our time working together,
Hmm.
because prior to you coming, I worked under one head of school, and he transitioned. And then we had what was it called? A intermediate, like head of school. What is it called? What's
Intern, yeah,
an
intern,
interim? That's what it is.
yeah.
Then he came, and he was coming to help us in that transition, and you were coming at the same time.
Mm,
And so just in that short time, just a few years, not only did the players change, but the mission and vision started to be reshaped, different leaderships, different, didn't mean
mm,
it was wrong, but it
mm,
was just at the time where I had kind of figured out how to incorporate my purpose as someone who is really family focused as a
mm,
counselor into working with children in the school. It took a couple years just to figure that out. And then right once I kind of had it and everybody in the community knew kind of how my program looked, everything shifted.
yeah.
And so the beautiful thing about anticipating purpose is that even though we were in an unknown season, even that's when the pandemic hit too. So we had
Hmm.
unknown after unknown after
Yeah.
unknown.
So many
But
unknowns.
what we found was I learned your strengths, you learn my strengths. I learned your weaknesses, you learn my weaknesses.
Hmm.
And there are just some things I'm never going to be good at. And there are some things you're never going to be good at. But then there are these other things that I got from you,
Yeah.
even being on a live. This is not what I do. This is not what I
Yeah.
do. But one of the things you spoke over me was leadership.
Mm,
I remember in one of our first meetings when we were talking about leaders, and I said, well, I'm a supporter of leaders. I've always been the person in the background, kind of shoring up the foundation and looking for cracks and just kind of supporting leaders. And you kind of looked at me and was like, that's sure, that's one of your roles, but you're very much a leader. And I was like,
mm.
no, no,
I
you
remember
know,
that vividly. Yes.
yes. And you spoke that into me, and it,
Mm,
it disrupted kind of the narrative I gave myself, and kind of found peace and comfort in.
mhm,
You called me up and out.
mm.
That's because of our collective purpose. Had you not been in that room,
Yeah.
that literally changed. And now I'm a CEO of my own, agency as a therapist. I'm stepping up more in leadership, even in church and in ministry, instead of being just in the office of counseling. So we had almost like it just never stopped all the way up
Mhm.
until we transitioned into our new roles. We were still just becoming a new version of ourselves, literally because of how we were as a collective,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that collective piece, and that's like an intentional choice of, when I made a transition with my business name, the Peak Leaders Collective, because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a powerful component. You're right. Like I think about being clear on our own individual wise, but the power when we walk into a space, you, me, we, but also we as individuals, when we walk into a space being really clear about who we are, it can spur something in the other folks that we have an opportunity to lead or pour into. And that's
Absolutely.
one of the things that I love that I get to do and be that with the clients that I work with. I feel like a lot of my coaching is reminding them of their purpose, reminding them of the people that they want to be at the end of the day, the messages they want to be tied to their existence, and helping them to ensure that the way they are acting or living that out is in alignment, right? And so
Yeah.
If they are walking through the role, whatever their roles are, like director of operations, director of culturally linguistic studies, principal, classroom teacher, whatever their roles are, it's helping them to ensure that they are making moves, they are speaking and communicating in a way that really clarifies or that really connects to their why and their purpose. And so I think there is power in that collective that I wish I have lots of wishes for the world, but that's one of my wishes that I wish people understood why we need each other so much, that we're not meant to do this work. And this work, you fill in the blank, any work. We're not meant to do this alone, because when I am in community and when I am in a relationship or partnership with others, you're able to bring things out of me that other folks aren't, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think there's power in that collective purpose. Um, it can even help you see the impact of your purpose in greater ways than you couldn't have without that partner, you know.
And even when you're working with someone that's challenging. So let's not
Mhm.
only look at like the synergy that happens when
Yeah.
someone balances you, but we are supposed to be stretched. It's not supposed to be like, oh my gosh, like I connect to this person and I'm better, and I connect to this person and I'm better. Sometimes it's the people that challenge you the most that are going to teach you the most
Yeah.
about your own areas of growth. And so if we just skip over people and circumstances that are uncomfortable, we're missing a great opportunity for growth.
Hmm.
So I think that's another key component,
Yeah.
because sometimes we don't show up for that. You know, we think conflict is a bad thing. Conflict is not a bad thing. It just means a difference of opinion, a difference of direction or way of being. And if we can find a way to collaborate even in that, there's
Hmm.
another kind of synergy
Yeah.
that happens. You know what I mean? Like if we work through it. But if we
Yes.
just check the box, like this person isn't for me, or this, we're missing an opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's dig into the challenges a little bit. You know, that's not our favorite, but we it's a part of work, it's a part of leadership, it's a part of life, right? The struggles, the challenges, all of those pieces. And someone just recently gave me a book that I have not started yet, and I'm going to butcher the title, but it's essentially around that we actually can find our genius within the hurts and the wounds that we experience. And so I talked
Gotcha.
about this idea around we have brilliance, we have genius, we all have these different gifts that we bring to the table. But this was an interesting just shift, which connects to what you're saying of like when we are in these hard, challenging seasons, we actually have an opportunity, perhaps uncover a part of our brilliance, a part of our genius that hasn't been tapped into yet. And that challenge can be a project, a situation in front of us, but it could be, like you named, working with someone who personality is just very different, their work style is just very different, their values are very different than yours. And so I want to hear your thoughts about when you are in these challenging seasons. Um, what do you do? What do you do? Actually, no, let me go back for a second. What does it feel like first when you know you are working or walking out of alignment with who you are? And then I would love to kind of talk about like what we do in it. But what does it feel like for you, or how do you know when you're kind of out of alignment?
I think the first thing that kind of comes to mind is I'm very much a feeling person. I'm all the
Mhm.
feelings. And so I find that when I'm out of alignment, I start to work from a cerebral place. Like
Mm,
I find myself more like I'm thinking through intricately how I say this and how I do this and how I show up. And that's actually not me. I am very much a feeler in any space. Doesn't matter what kind of meeting it is. Doesn't matter who I'm in front of.
mm,
I'm always operating based upon feeling. And so when I don't feel safe, either with
mm,
myself and knowing that I'm where I need to be or how I'm showing up how I need to, when I don't feel safe with the people in the room or
mhm,
known or seen, same thing that we wish for our students. That's why that was
mhm.
so important for us. Um, I find myself going into the like opening up the file of the facts, right?
Okay.
How to show up, and eventually that doesn't, it messes with my whole spirit because that
Mm,
is just not, I am not calculated. I'm very much with the flow of what's happening and
mm,
staying. And so I find myself, it's almost like being out of my body.
mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
how it looks.
That is. I'm connecting. You know this. I like feel like I'm floating, right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
like, and I think I am the opposite of you. This is when I'm like so grateful that I have you in my life because I go to feelings and not necessarily to thinking where uh, I'm an emotional being. We all are in very many ways, and but I find myself um, feeling my feelings are bigger than the facts in front of me. Where I'm like, I don't like this, or I don't feel like this is the right way. I don't feel like I'm doing a lot of I'm not tantruming. It sounds like I'm saying I'm tantruming. I'm not, but
You're not. Say
I
that again. My feelings are bigger. Say it. Than the
my
facts
feelings
in
are bigger
front of
than
me.
the facts in front of me.
That's
Right.
good.
And knowing my strengths, and I think what you've brought out of me is to sit in the feelings a little bit longer than I've always wanted to, and to have more of a balance. But when
Yeah.
I am not working in alignment with my values or my why or who I am, those feelings can kind of overtake and overthrow the things that I know to be true, the direction that I know to move in. Like I am a very competent individual. I'm strategic. I know I can create plans and move forward. But when I am now like doubting and judge and like, oh, I don't think this is right. This is going to mess up. Like that is when I can tell that I am working out of alignment. And it feels like disconnected. It feels like I'm watching myself feel things and move in ways and be over emotional about things that don't tend to rattle me. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And then you think about it, like back to that collaborative kind of synergy that we're all meant to have. I believe that
Mhm.
we're just all meant to work as a collective. That's just what I believe. And so think about when we work together, like I'm just thinking of like, say we're sending out communication to the community about whatever.
Oh,
And
my
Pam
favorite.
would do her, she pulled that computer out. And I mean, without even thinking about it, she's just a tapping because she knows in her head, okay, we need to address this, we need to explain this. And my face during that time when we're in the meeting, I'm like, right? And it will be our good friend Laura Drake. She was the other part of our trio, and they're just doing their magic, their organizational structured magic. And then after all the magic is done, they would hand it to me. And then
Mhm.
and I would read it for tone, and I would read it for let's soften this, let's make this more direct. That's synergy,
Yeah.
right? I'm not you. I'm not going to be able to construct things the way that you do, but the tone and just, oh well, let's say it this way, or let's move this here, and then you might be like, all right, that feels different,
Mm.
right? When I'm reading it now, it feels, as a reader, I feel
Mhm.
more connected to it. Well, in the same way, if we're out of alignment, in that exact example, if
Mhm.
I'm being in my head, and this has happened, you come into my office and I'm in my head about something,
Mhm.
and I'm leaning into well, should it be this way? And should this go here? And it would be you or one of my other colleagues who were amazing at that school who would say, wait a minute, Val, like what are you feeling right now? And if it was me talking to you in the opposite situation, if you were feeling like, I don't know this, or I'm wondering about this, then I would say to you, hey, what is it that you want to say? You know what you want to say, like pointing each other back,
Yeah.
right, to our natural rhythms. That is what we get in community, and we have to know there are going to be times where it's misaligned because
Mhm.
we're living in an evolving world.
Yeah.
Environmental changes, personal changes in our own lives, it's going to happen. So it's
Yeah.
really about how we respond to it. And if we're surrounding ourselves with people that know us enough, even as
Mhm.
professionals, doesn't mean they have to know our outside lives, but if we're working together, we get the most out of our work experience when we try to, learn how to calibrate our environment and calibrate each other, like get
Mhm.
everybody balanced. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. I think it totally makes sense, and I think about the times when I didn't have that in leadership, right? And when I've been in other roles where I didn't really have that collective or that community, um,
Mm-hmm.
and felt like I was on an island. And I wouldn't even
Yeah.
say that and when we were together, when we worked in the organization we worked in together, there were seasons where I didn't always feel it, right? Because trying to figure out my role and all those pieces, that
Yeah.
was challenging. But I think about times when I didn't have people in the space that I work with to help me with getting back aligned or recentered. And I imagine that there are probably other leaders who don't have the beauty of a team or even
Yeah.
another person in their space that can help them to, help point them back to their purpose. And so I would love to talk a little bit about what have we done individually when we haven't been able to get to the people, right? That help us to get recentered, like some individual things that we do to get back in alignment with who we are, um, and the values that we want to lead from. But what are like a strategy or two that you would say that you've used to help yourself get back into that space?
I think a big piece of it, again, our story, our journey is such a great example because we are not working together. We're in two totally different fields.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple different positions, and you started your own company, and we have been very much still that to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's the reach. If I we both started our own businesses, so we were by ourselves. There's no team until we build the team. And so realizing that there is a gap there and not assuming that, well, this is, I'm starting a business by myself. So I really don't need, other people, or
Mm-hmm.
either they wouldn't understand what I needed. We're not working in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually not true. It's just about allowing someone to know you where you are, and communicate like what your mission and your vision is with someone who understands who you are, even if it's only as a professional. It doesn't have to be personal. Because when I think about how we talk as you were building your business, we just sit down and talk. And you
Mm-hmm.
would dream with me, and I would say, well, I see this. What do you think about this? And you might go, oh, you know what? That's actually a good idea. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And vice versa. When I wasn't ready to start my private practice, I mean, for almost 2 years, you were like,
Hey,
and
hey,
why not?
hey. But we're there. We're there now.
You were there. But you're like, what are you doing, Val?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
sometimes you would call me, just like
Yeah.
at work. When you would set up the task, you were like, hey, in a month, I need to see that website. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. You're right. So you need to reach for it. There's
Yeah.
never a time in a season where you don't need someone that you trust,
Mm-hmm.
professionally or personally, to speak into where you are in your journey. So I think that's a key piece.
Yes. Yes. Finding people. I call it my tribe, like my people.
Mm.
Then they don't have to be experts in your field of work. I think that's something
Yes.
we often think. It's actually pretty beautiful because they can bring in different perspectives and insights, that you wouldn't necessarily see or even consider because of the way they view the world. And so I think, yes, finding that tribe is huge. If you are the only or you don't have people within your space, you can look outside your space. I also found a practice of journaling. I don't do it as much as I wish I did, but just finding time throughout my day to get quiet with myself and with God for me. And just kind of almost like a brain dump, getting all the thinking out of my head. Because oftentimes, I know for myself, when I'm starting to feel out of balance or off centered or kind of moving away from my why, it's because my brain is just swirling with thoughts, ideas, lies, all these different
Worries.
things, yeah,
Yes.
that are happening. And so finding a way to pause and brain dump, get it all out, so I can actually see what it is that I'm struggling with. Because when
Yeah.
it's all swarming around in my head, I can't make sense of it. But
Mm-hmm.
the moment I even start journaling, and many times my journaling turns into like diagrams, and you can imagine me and my whiteboard, all
I
these things
can.
connecting and realizing, okay, that's actually this is not even a big deal. Why am I thinking about that? Let me cross that.
Mm-hmm.
But getting quiet within myself and giving myself space for that. I also, and you know this about me and the woods and nature, that is my happy place. That is where I feel most connected with myself and most connected with God. And so I will, on my calendar, I have like, because I'm working throughout the St. Louis area, and I know if I'm going to be down in the South County area or in the city, or I'm going to be near Forest Park, I have my parks all mapped out. So I know in between sessions, I can stop, even if it's 10 minutes, and just go find a quiet place in the park. Depending on the temperature, I will take off my shoes and put my feet right in the grass and just get grounded and just get centered within myself. And sometimes, if I just like praying or just emptying my thought. And sometimes it's even like, why am I here? Okay, let me get
Yeah,
really centered on my purpose. Okay, my purpose in life is to create spaces that uphold a culture of human dignity. How do I make sure that I am taking that with me when I'm going to the grocery store, when I'm going to my next meeting, when I'm leading a workshop of some sort? So just finding quiet moments to kind of to refine, that's not the right word, but like rediscover myself.
reset, refresh, renew all the
Yes,
things. Yeah,
yes, which is just
it's
so
like
needed.
renewing your why.
Yes,
Why
yes, I
am
love
I
that.
here? It's just giving it new life. And the reality is what you just named is just self-care, which
Mhm,
is key. Having a tribe and having self-care be a part of your rhythms.
mhm,
I love journaling because not only does it give you that moment to put it all out so that you can really see what
mhm,
you're dealing with, it also creates a track record.
mm.
So when you have that next challenge where you're like, what just happened? I don't know what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? All those things, you can look
Are
back
you
in your
mocking me right
own,
now? No, I'm joking.
you can just turn the pages back of your own story
Yeah.
and remember the last time you had to go sit at the tree, put your feet in the grass, and renew your thinking. And so your own testimony can put you right back on track. Like,
Mm,
wait a minute, I'm going to get through
yeah,
this. Like, all the things that I've overcome, I have to just get, you like you said, refresh, renew, reset, and start moving again. So
yeah.
I love that.
Well, now I'm gonna really journal. I'm gonna do it more because I love that. Because I don't go back to look at any of my journals. I think I just write and then I'm turning the page to the next thing. But I think there is some power with going back and looking at where
Absolutely.
I have been and kind of where I am um, moving and going forward. So I really like that idea. And so as we're wrapping up, because we're kind of coming on a little bit over 30 minutes, what would you say is something that you want people to remember about the power in knowing your purpose and living from that space?
Biggest takeaway I want everybody to have is just to um, look at your purpose as something you're supposed to steward.
Mm,
It is alive, it is breathing. And there are times where you're taking great care of it, and there are times where you're not.
mm,
That's just how it's going to be. There are times where it's really easy and it seems like you're just in your shoes, and other times where it feels like your shoes don't fit. It's all purpose, it's
mm,
all a part of it. Sometimes that uncomfortable, tight feeling in those shoes is just because you're about to transition to another season.
mm,
So just knowing that if you want to live in your purpose, you just need to be rooted in the fact that you are already in it. It's happening. Like God is writing a story. He's holding the pen. We can't anticipate where it's going,
mm,
but we can kind of minister and encourage ourselves and remind ourselves that it is a living, breathing thing and that is yet evolving. And sometimes just having that down in your heart can just kind of give you that moment of like, wait a minute, I can reset because
mhm,
I was never holding the pen.
mhm,
Like you said, looking back in the journal, all the things that happened, you had lots of plans and great educated guesses, and so did I about what might happen next and predictions. But more often than not, we end up in places that we never really dreamed, or maybe we're in the places that we dreamed of, but not with the same people doing the same
yeah,
thing. It is alive. And so we just need to steward it and care for it in all the ways that we talked about.
love that. I love that. And I think the big takeaway I would say is as leaders, getting really clear and understanding your why, your core values, kind of all the pieces that are um, pushing you to do the work that you're doing, getting really clear on that because it can really inspire those around you. It's something I would just remind leaders the power of purpose driven leadership. And also, it can allow you to make meaningful impact in your work when you are living and working out of your why. And when it comes time for those challenges, when those challenges happen, I just want to remind you to find your people, find your tribe, and just remember the power of collective purpose. And those people might not have the same strengths, might not have the exact same values that you have, but making sure you find those people, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coach, whether it's a team, but finding those people to help you to get centered back on your work or get centered back on why. So, well, we thank you all so much for being with us. Val, you know I love you. I thank you so
We
much
love
for
you.
jumping on this LinkedIn Live with me, trusting me with this venue to share our thoughts and our experiences with those around us. And if you have any questions, you can contact myself or Val on LinkedIn. Also, my email is paya at collective. Oh, that's not it. Paya at peakleaderscollective.com if you have any questions, or you can find either of us on LinkedIn. But we thank you so much, and we hope that you have gained one strategy, one way to help yourself stay true to your values as you work to lead with purpose. Take care.
Thank you.